left. Yes. Which one should I get? This one?
No, the
Up-
one with
up
the,
one.
The Orthodox Study Bible.
This one?
yeah.
Yep, that'll work.
Yeah.
So we are
Page you
on page 797, chapter 19 of Job. We are finally back again after several
got?
things that interrupted our regularly scheduled program.
Not quite as severe as interruption.
No, Joe, 17.
Job 19.
19?
19. 19.
Okay.
So we finished through 18. And again, we're still in the kind of back and forth between Job and his friends who are accusing him for being unrighteous and sinful, and he needs to repent, and that's why he's being punished by God. And Job is defending himself, saying, "No, I am righteous and not sinful." And it's getting the friends are getting more and more agitated, and as Job is. So 19. Then Job answered and said, "How long will you weary my soul and take me down with words? Only know how the Lord has dealt with me thus. You speak against me, and while shaming me, you press hard on me." And the fathers talk about good people are often broken by the words of others. Yet, indeed, I have truly erred. My error lodges with me. When I speak words which I should not have spoken, my words go astray and are unseasonable. Alas, you exalt yourself against me and attack me with disgrace. Know therefore that the Lord has troubled me and raised his stronghold against me. He's saying that the Lord is the one who's responsible for this, not because of his behavior per se, but just because the Lord can do whatever he wants. Behold, I laugh at disgrace, and I will not speak, nor I will cry out, for judgment is nowhere to be found. And he basically feels like he doesn't have any um, um, way to defend himself to God. I'm walled in around about and cannot cross over, for he has set darkness before my face, and he stripped me of my glory. He took the crown from my head. So Job here is just simply saying we should grieve over those punished by God and never rejoice over a death. The friends are kind of hammering him, and he's saying, you should be grieving with me, not being negative to me. His friends are not grieving with him, but chastising him. Job is unable to make any progress. He's walled in. He does not receive his crown or glory. So again, the crown of martyrdom, right? I mean, just let me die and I can receive my crown. Or, he feels like he's in a race where there is no finish line. He has torn me apart on every side, and I am gone. He has uprooted my hope like a tree. He handled me vehemently in wrath and has counted me like an enemy. His raiders came against me with one accord. They encircled my paths and lay in wait. So he's saying it's not just, it wasn't just God, but all the people that were sent to take away everything from him. And this passage kind of is reminiscent of Christ's passion. My brothers stood far from me and recognized strangers rather than me. So my friends became unmerciful. My relatives acted as though they did not know me, and my close friends had forgotten me. As for my neighbors and the maidservants of my house, I was a stranger before them. I called my servant, but he gave me no answer, though I begged him with my mouth. I also entreated my wife and some of the children of my concubines and flattered them, but they rejected me forever. When I arise, they speak against me. Those who know me detest me, and those whom I truly love turn against me. The muscles of my body have decayed under my skin, and my bones are held in my teeth. Have mercy on me. And now he's described all this. Now he's going to prophesy about the resurrection. And some of this may be kind of familiar. Have mercy on me, O friends, for the hand of the Lord has touched me. Why do you persecute me as the Lord does, and are not satisfied because of my flesh? For who may commit my words to writing, to put them in a book forever? And this is his prophecy that he wants written down and remembered for all generations. With an iron pen and lead, or to engrave them in rocks. For I know he is everlasting, he who is about to set me free on the earth, and to raise up my skin that endures these things. For these have been accomplished for me by the Lord, which I myself am conscious of, and my eyes have beheld, and not those of another. All has been accomplished for me in my bosom. If you shall say, what shall we say before him? Then we will find in him the root of the matter. Indeed, be afraid to cover up your evil, for wrath will come upon lawless men, and then they will know where their substance is. So he'll raise up my skin, even he is prophesying about not just the spiritual resurrection, but bodily resurrection as well. And he indicates at the end there that there is also a judgment. So um, this prophesying and foreshadowing of Christ in Job. Chapter 20. Then Zophar the Naamathite answered and said, I did not suppose you would answer in that way, nor do you understand more than I. And so he kind of chastises him there. He's saying, I don't believe your answer, and I did not, and you're acting like you know more than I do. I do not suppose you answer that way, nor do you understand more than I. I will heed the discipline of my humiliation, and the spirit of my understanding causes me to answer. Have you not heard these things of old, from the time man was put on the earth? For the gladness of the ungodly is a disastrous fall, and the joy of transgressors is destruction. Though his gifts ascend to heaven, and his sacrifice touches the clouds, just when he already seems to be established, then he shall utterly perish, and those who knew him will say, where is he? So pause here a little bit. Zophar does not believe God could punish someone for no reason. That's why he answered the way he did at the beginning of the chapter there. And he's taking joy in Job's misfortune because he believes Job is wicked. And that's why he's going to now criticize him here. The irony is none of this um, is reflective of Job, right? And it's really almost more reflective of Zophar himself. And the fathers talk about this passage and a lot of these passages for the next few chapters as referring to the impious and heretics, people that are within the church. When I say impious, I don't mean pagans or whatever. People within the church, but those who are uh, teaching false doctrine or driving people away from the church. Okay, so these criticisms here that are being laid on Job, really the fathers are talking about this is what people within the church that are causing division of the church is reflective of them. So that's why it says, though his gifts ascend to heaven and his sacrifice such as the clouds, somebody who exalts themselves just when he already seems to be established, then he shall utterly perish. Those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. And those who knew him will say, where is he? Like a dream, he flew away and cannot be found, and he fled like a vision of the night. The eye observed him, but will see him no more, nor will his place any longer behold him. May his children perish, and may his vile hands kindle the fire of sorrows. This is not willing death on children. This is willing that whatever the heretics or the impious produce will be destroyed. That the fruit of their labor is not good. His bones were full of his youthful vigor, which will lie down with him in the dust. Though evil is sweet in his mouth, and he will hide it under his tongue, though he will not spare it and will not forsake it, but will hold it fast in the midst of his throat, yet he shall be unable to help himself, for the gall of an ass was in his belly. And again, gall was offered to Christ on the cross. His wealth gathered unjustly shall be vomited up, and a messenger will drag him out of his house. May he nurse on the anger of serpents, and may a snake's tongue kill him. May he not see the milk of the pasture, nor his supplies of honey and butter. In vain he has labored unprofitably for wealth, of which he will not taste, for it is like tough meat that he cannot chew. For he crushed the houses of many weak people and plundered their dwelling and caused it to cease. And again, the house there is referring to the house of God, the church. Um, those uh, that are wreaking this within the church, may they, again, cease to exist. There is no salvation in his possessions, for he will not be saved by what he desired. Nothing is left for him to eat, therefore his good things will not flourish. But when he at last seems to be satisfied, he will be distressed, for every trouble will come upon him. If he were to satisfy his stomach in some way, that God send the fury of wrath upon him, and may he bathe him in sorrows. And so here's the fathers talk about this as being someone, and we might see this in our world today in some ways, but those who have worldly power, whether they be within the church, within government, within whatever, are often overcome by the passions. And just as maybe one passion may come and go, another passion immediately follows the passion that was overcome, right? So whether it be that they're greedy, whether it be that they're angry, whether they're lustful, all these things kind of build upon each other.
But so far he thinks he's talking about Job,
Correct.
but so and it says here his so-called superior understanding blinded him to the truth. So who's giving him all these words to say? Because like Christ would say, don't worry about what you're going to say. The Spirit's going to speak it for you. So is that kind of what's going on here?
Yes, the fathers are very clear that it is the Spirit that is speaking through Zophar, and the Spirit's not limited to just righteous people to speak through, and that wisdom can come from.
So Zophar thinks he's really condemning Job with his
Right.
tongue, but really he's condemning himself.
Correct.
And others.
Yes. Remember, God can speak through a donkey, right? So.
Right. I mean, but that's that. I mean, I've read this before, but I never thought of that as being that, because even I'm trying to think during the pre-sanctified liturgy, there is a series of hymns and something about utterly I can't remember the rest of it, but that word utterly is such an unusual word to use.
Yeah, we're utterly whatever. Yeah, I know what you're referring to.
And and it's like you sing a little bit and then you sing the same response again. I don't know what the Greek word is for utterly.
I don't know. I'll have to look that up.
In the Greek Bible.
So.
Okay, so he thinks he's so smart. That's like when you go, that's nice, you're so smart, right?
Yes.
Utterly lost.
Utterly lost. Yeah,
thank you.
There you go. There you go.
My memory.
So, but and the word that the fathers are using for this is hypocrites. Those who are hypocrites, and Zophar basically is the hypocrite.
And maybe like foreshadowing Christ talking to, saying you hypocrites.
Exactly.
To their face. And Zophar thinks he's saying it to poor Job, who's been sitting around going, well, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, so this is why I say the level is just it's intensifying.
But do you assume also that the words that Job spoke in prophecy were given through the Spirit?
Correct. And this is wisdom literature, right? I mean, whether or not Job was an actual human being is really not the point.
Right.
It's wisdom literature. It's supposed to invoke wisdom, and there's an element of this where it's almost ironic or sarcastic, if you will, right? That the one accusing Job is actually the one it's hypocritical, right? So yeah,
which isn't uncommon.
Right. Yes. Well, verse 24, he will not be saved from the power of the sword. May a bronze bow wound him. May an arrow pass through his body, and may lightning strike his dwelling. May terrors come upon him. May total darkness await him. A fire that will not go out will consume him. May a stranger ruin his house. So again, darkness and light, again, that there's going to be a lot of play on that part of things, obviously, with Christ being the light. May heaven uncover his lawlessness, and may the earth rise up against him. May destruction bring his house to an end, and may a day of wrath come upon him. This is the portion of an ungodly man from the Lord, and the heritage appointed to him from the one who watches him. And the one who watches him, obviously, is the bishop, right? Because the one who washes is the overseer, episkopos. So he's talking about, and so one of the fathers was saying, if you want to be a good bishop, you need to be like Christ, because he is the true overseer in the church. So,
There's an interesting opinion piece in the New York Times today about how the some of the behavior of politicians around the world is really going back to ancient times where it's like strength and power and only the people at the top matter.
mhm.
And the writer, said that Christ brought in to all the world, even those who are non-believers, even who are not Christian, the ethos of caring for
Mhm.
others and caring for the poor, and that the lowest is really the highest.
Mhm.
And there's a bunch of other stuff in it, but it was an interesting. I'll share it with you, but it's an interesting um, thing of saying, in a ways we're going backwards to paganism.
In the early church, first 3 centuries, historically, not to say that wealthy people didn't become Christians, they did. However, the majority were the the working class, were the poor, were the people that didn't have a place or a say to go to. But there's even a psychological understanding of that, right? I mean, if you've got, if it wasn't America, if there was no way for you to rise up in society,
Mhm.
and you're constantly, you're being put under the thumb, and the church comes along and says, well, what you have in this world doesn't matter, which is what Job just said, right? But if you do good works and you take care of yourself and you believe in God, you can have all the riches of the kingdom when you die. I mean, psychologically, you can go, that's a pretty good deal, right? And if you're wealthy, and the church's response is, well, God has given you this wealth so you can take care of other people. Psychologically, you're going to go, I don't know if I like that message. So, but yeah, that is the message of Christ, right?
I think that people most of the times, people find God or find when they're the lowest, because that's when because God is always there waiting for us.
Right.
But when we are in good situations, when people that are like wealthy, rich, or whatever, just don't remember God.
Right.
But God is always there.
Yeah, we tend not to pray much when things are going well. But as soon as something bad happens,
Just because we think we're
the
doing well.
first words out of your mouth are, why God? You start
Yeah,
praying immediately,
exactly.
right?
And that's when God will reply back to you, will come back to you.
Correct. I
When,
mean,
when he's there, you just open up the window so you can see him.
yes, he's always there. He's waiting for us, right? I mean,
And I don't think that politicians, when like we the last years, like the rich people, the politicians went back to paganism. I think it was always around.
Yeah.
We just like people start saying it again that
yeah,
that's how.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think they ever stopped.
no,
No, I don't think so. But it was this opinion piece was basically putting it out in front of people
Yeah,
to
okay.
say. I mean, basically saying um, that even like today on the news, um, one of the statistics was most of Christians agree with the current administration, 56%. I don't know how that becomes most. It's
I mean,
sort of a
technically,
small
most.
majority. I don't
Right.
think it's most,
Yeah,
but it's those kind of things. When I think this person was putting it out there saying, you know, when Christ came, he didn't say it, but we say it. The world was turned right side up
yes,
from being upside down.
yeah.
And so, um, and it was just interesting. I don't know what this person's I don't think they're a fake journalist. But, and I think the other thing, is I'm reading this. My sister-in-law is a Catholic, although she has raised the children Orthodox, and she's very much Orthodox. But uh, the the Jesuit priest. I'm going to forget his name, but he's the priest that Stephen Colbert oftentimes has on his show, and he has this book. It's like a travelogue of where of the Holy Land, and he always puts it together. And he talked about in one chapter how he used to think that that relationship with God was transactional. If I do this, you'll do this, God. If I pray this hard, you will. He said that isn't how it is.
No.
This is a Jesuit, saying this is what because he started off he went to Wharton School of Business and started off in I think he was with GE and said, yeah, that's not for me. And then it's going to be Jesuit priest. But and I think a lot of times we think that. I mean, I would see in the hospital people line the walls of I'm a pediatric ICU doctor with Bible verses and Bible with this certain thing. If I just do this and I put enough there, my child will live. And it's like, God still loves you, still loves your child.
I was gonna say we were talking earlier about that, right? I mean, if I just pray hard enough, I'll get better.
Yeah.
It's like no, pray, maybe
not.
Pray.
You will get better. Oftentimes on the other side, we'll all get better on the other side.
Spiritually, right? Spiritually, you get better.
Yeah,
and that's what's more important, right? The paralytic, right? Your sins have been cleansed, and the people are like. First of all, they're critical. How could he forgive sins? But then, the criticism is,
how do we know?
Yeah, why didn't you just, if you want to prove something, just heal them, Okay, I can do that too.
But no, but ultimately, we pray that we will have a new body,
Yes.
and that we will have our spirit will be with God, and we in the ultimate catastrophe for anybody is to end up in the dark.
Right. Exactly. So you did some research on the utterly part of things.
Thanks, Dean.
Kathari son me, so cleanse me. Pantelos, entirely. Completely. Yeah. Utterly. I think that might have been a Father Didi's translation. So.
I don't think he did that. I think he did the translation of this book. A bunch of other people did.
Anyway, thank you for looking into that. Entirely, completely.
Well,
Exactly.
I like the derivation of the word, though. It comes from telos. Isn't that beautiful?
Okay. Until the end. Yeah, very good. Okay, there you go. Completely, yes. Okay, oh, there you go. So, thank you for the research while we were chit-chatting.
Thanks, Jeannie.
Well, thank you all.
Okay, on to 21. Then Job answered and said, listen carefully to my words, that I may not have this consolation from you. And again, he's now responding harshly as well. Bear with me, and I will speak, then you will stop laughing at me. What, is there anyone who does not blame me? Or why should I not be furious? Look at me and be astonished, and put your hand over your mouth. He's basically saying you should be doing that. You look at me and be astonished. For even when I remember, I am alarmed, and pains take hold of my flesh. Why do the ungodly live and become old, even in wealth? And here's the whole point, right? The wicked prosper, and why am I being punished? Their offspring is according to their desire, and their children are before their eyes. Their houses flourish, and they have no cause for fear. Neither is there any affliction from the Lord upon them. Their ox does not miscarry, for it is preserved safe during pregnancy, and does not suffer a mishap. They remain as an unfailing herd, and their children dance, taking up the psaltery and harp, and they celebrate at the sound of song. They spend their life in their good things, and fall asleep in the rest of the grave. Yet such a man says to the Lord, depart from me, I do not wish to know your ways. What is a sufficient reason for us to serve him? What benefit is it for us to meet him? for their good things are in their power, for he does not take notice of the work of the ungodly. And so this is what we were just talking about. Um, and it's interesting. Unfailing herd is of sheep is the the heretics again.
So is this it? Would the Jews have known this when Christ talked about how it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of the needle than the rich man?
mhm.
Because in this, it's just very clear. It's like we've got all this stuff, like you were saying.
Yep.
Why do I need anything else?
Right.
Go away, God.
Well, and that's what he's saying here. Yeah, if the what do I put that down here? They don't serve God because they do not see the reward in this life, right? If they're looking for the reward for this life, and they're successful, so it's like, well, why do I need God? And that's why they.
And so even when Christ came, the Jews were looking for an earthly king,
Mhm.
and they missed out on who he is.
Correct. Because kingdoms come and go.
That's like some of the most important thing that I remember almost all day, every day. I think about how you said that, and that God gives you the ruler you need, not necessarily who you want.
Correct. It's the one that
In anything.
and kingdoms come and go, and so to establish a worldly kingdom would have meant the end of the worldly kingdom. He already did establish the worldly kingdom. We went through that in Kingdoms, right? That didn't work out so well.
No.
So,
They should have stuck with him.
So, and how did that start out, right? We want a king, right? The people asked for it. Here's your king. In his wisdom, he didn't, he didn't give us a worldly kingdom. It's the passage I like to use. For God so loved the world, he did not send a committee. Sometimes committees don't accomplish a whole lot. So, um, so yeah, so that's the challenge of being successful in this world. And when I say successful, I don't necessarily mean wealthy. It can be. You can be healthy. Um, you can have all the things that you want. That would be successful in a lot of ways. The challenge there is you take the time then to pause and thank God for all that. And oftentimes we don't. And it's only when calamity falls, it doesn't have to be Job's calamity. It can be just a minor one. That's when you start to focus on God. Now, sometimes that's, and this is clearly the case with Job, right? God's testing him in order to refine him in the fire and restore afterwards. Sometimes that's what God does with us. And hopefully we learn the lesson without needing a Job-like lesson. Hopefully we learn from the smaller lessons.
But I think that even though, this is pretty dramatic, but when someone loses whatever they feel to be of great value,
right?
That is equivalent. Because Job had everything.
Yes.
But he also had faith in God.
Yeah.
And that's really what got him through the end of it.
Got him through. Exactly. Is by not losing his faith, everything else was restored. And that's the message. So so now Job is contradicting his friends, and he's proving to them, just because I have suffered calamity, it's not causational, it's not transactional, as you said. It not because I sinned that I lost all these things, because the opposite is also not true.
Mm-hmm.
So 17, nevertheless, the lamp of the ungodly will be put out. And of course, again, there's the darkness and light thing that will be put out because they don't have the light of Christ. Destruction shall come upon them, and the sorrows of wrath will seize them. They are like chaff before the wind, and they are like a dust storm carries away. May his possessions fail to supply his children. God will recompense him, and he will not know it. May his eyes see his own slaughter, and may he not be saved by the Lord. For For is his will not in his house with himself, but the number of his months has been apportioned. Number of all of our months has been apportioned, so that is a truth. So, that's fun. 22. Is it not the Lord who teaches understanding and knowledge? Does not he judge murderers? Now remember that passage from 22 there. Is it not the Lord who teaches understanding and knowledge? He's he's saying, you guys are trying to teach me, Job is saying, you guys are trying to teach me, when really it's the Lord who's the one who teaches. I learn from him, not from you. Does not he judge murderers? One shall die in the strength of his simplicity and wholly at ease and prosperous. His innards are full of stiff fat, and the marrow of his bones is dissipated. Another dies under bitterness of soul, not eating any good thing. They lie down together in the earth, and decay covers them. Thus I know you press me recklessly. You will say, where is the house of the ruler? Where is the shelter of the dwelling place of the ungodly? Ask those who travel the road, and do not overlook their signs. For the evil man makes light of the day of destruction, but they shall be led away in the day of his wrath. Who will tell him to his face, tell him his way to his face? And that's where one of the fathers, when I was reading that, mentioned the only one who did that was Christ to the devil, right? And Job is here is saying, who will tell him his way to his face? Because Job is saying, you're telling me to my face about this, but the only one who really challenged the devil was Christ at his temptation when he chastised him there. Who will recompense him for what he has done? Yet he is brought to the grave, and a vigil is kept over the coffin. The pebbles of the valley have been sweet to him. Every man shall depart after him, as countless have departed before him. How then can you comfort me with empty words, since I have no rest from you? Um, and so that last part, your answers to me, he's saying, are vain, they're vanity. I have no use for them. So, and the other one jumped in. Then Eliphaz the Temanite and answered and said, is it not the Lord who teaches understanding and knowledge? Remember verse 22? He quotes Job there, right? So Eliphaz indicates his defeat by stating what has just been stated by Job himself. For what concern is it to the Lord if you were blameless in your works? Or what profit is it to him to make plain your ways? Will he argue with you while you plead your case? Will he enter into judgment with you? Is not your vice plentiful, and are not your sins innumerable? So Eliphaz is basically making Job's case for him here. He refutes Job's position that God is the cause of his calamity. So now that he's lost the argument against Job, he's saying, no, God isn't the reason that you have this misfortune. For you have taken pledges from your brethren for no reason, and he's making now all these false accusations, and taken away the clothing of the naked. Neither have you given the thirsty water to drink, but have even withheld a morsel from the hungry. You have also admired the personality of some, and have transplanted all those already settled on the earth. You have set widows away empty and have mistreated orphans. Therefore, snares are all around you, and a serious war has troubled you. The light has turned to darkness for you, and water has covered you as you fell asleep. Does not he who dwells on high take notice of all? Does he not humble those who move about you with insolence? But you say, what does the mighty one know? Will he judge down into the darkness? A cloud is his hiding place, so he cannot see, as he travels through the circle of heaven. So that's basically Eliphaz accusing Job of saying those things. Will you keep to the old path which wrongdoers have trod, who were seized before their time, and whose foundation were swept away by a flood, who said, what will the Lord do to us, or what will the Almighty bring upon us? Yet he filled their houses with good things, but the counsel of the ungodly is far from him. The righteous have seen it and laughed, and the innocent mocked them. Surely their substance has perished, and fire will consume what is left. It's interesting because he has filled their houses with good things is from the uh, more honorable than the cherubim passage. So again, none of these accusations against Job are true.
But all of those from the beginning of verse 22 are what Christ says, you didn't do these for me.
Correct.
You didn't do this for any other people. You didn't do anything for me.
Right. If you didn't do it for them, you didn't do it for me. Exactly. Which we will hear the Sunday, the following Sunday. Verse 21, be strong, therefore, if you endure, then your fruit shall be in good things. Receive utterance from his mouth and lay up his words in your heart. Now, Eliphaz here, the irony again is, Eliphaz is correct in all he's going to say here. If we do all these things, God responds to our repentance. The issue is Job doesn't have a need to do any of these
things. Why?
Because he's righteous. He's not sinful.
But still, he has to endure.
Endurance, yes. Endurance, yes. And we are purified in enduring suffering. So, yes. The makrothemia, right? The long suffering. Be strong, therefore. If you endure, then your fruit shall be in good things. Receive utterance from his mouth and lay up his words in your heart. If you return and humble yourself before the Lord, you have caused wrongdoing to be far from your dwelling. Then you will lay up treasure for yourself like a mound on a rock, and you shall be like the gold of Ophir on a rock in the brooks. So the Almighty will be your helper from enemies, and he will restore you as pure as silver purged by fire. For then you will speak freely before the Lord, looking up cheerfully to heaven. When you pray to him, he will hear you, and he will allow you to pay your vows. He will restore righteousness to your dwelling, and there shall be light on your paths. You will say, he behaved arrogantly, but he humbled himself, and he will save him who bows down with his eyes. He will deliver the innocent, and you will save yourself in the purity of your hands. So yes, we are purified by enduring suffering. And Christ uses that in the Gospels as well, and Saint Paul does, etc. Chapter 23. Then Job answered and said, indeed, I know pleading is out of my reach, for his hand is heavy upon my groaning. Who then would know that I might find him and might bring this matter to an end? I would state my case before him and fill my mouth with arguments. So here, Job longs for an opportunity to plead his case with God, which is essentially what we do in confession, right? Not that we're pleading a case, but we're stating what we do in confession. The irony is, of course, what's going to happen later on in Job. He gets that opportunity, right? So I would state my case before him and fill my mouth with arguments. Would that I knew the words he would answer me and could understand what he would tell me. Though he would come on me in his great strength, he would not use the occasion to threaten me. For truth and rebuke are from him, and he would bring my judgment to an end. Though I should proceed to this important end until I no longer exist, still, what would I know about the last things? When he worked up on the left hand, I could not understand it, but his right hand will encompass me, but I will not see it. And that reminds me again, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. For he knows my way already, and he has weighed me as gold. I will go forth in his commandments, for I have kept his ways and will not turn aside. I will not disregard his commandments, but I have hidden his words in my bosom. If he too has thus judged, who is he that opposed him? Whatever he has willed, that he has done. Therefore I pursue him zealously, and when I was instructed, I thought of him. Therefore let me be serious before his face. I will consider and be afraid of him. The Lord softened my heart, and the Almighty has alarmed me, for I did not know darkness would come upon me, but thick darkness covered my face. And so Job here is sort of examining himself and seeing what have I done. I would like to defend myself before God and be given the rationale for what I'm experiencing. So, in 24, why have the times escaped the Lord's notice? And again, the Lord notices everything. But he's outside of time, right? He's not bound by time as we are. Why have the times escaped the Lord's notice? Why have the ungodly stepped over the boundary, snatching away the flock from the shepherd? They have led away the donkey of the orphans and have taken the widow's ox as a pledge. Again, the heretics and impious have scorned and mocked everyone This is about, again, the heretics and the impious. They have turned aside the weak from the right way. The gentle of the land have hidden themselves together. They departed like donkeys in the field. Contrary to me, they went forth to their own pursuits. Their bread was sweet to their little ones, for they harvested a field that was not their own before the time, and the weak worked in the vineyard of the ungodly without pay or food. And again, leading people astray. They're like donkeys, they're braying. They caused many naked to sleep without clothing, and they took away the covering of their life. They are wet with the showers of the mountains and have huddled around the rock for want of shelter. They have snatched the orphan from the breast and have humiliated the banished. They have unjustly caused them to sleep without clothing, and they have taken away the morsel from the hungry. They have wrongly laid snares in narrow places and have not known the way of righteousness. They have cast the weak out of the city and their own houses, and the soul of the infant sighed greatly. Why then has he not visited them? They are ones on the earth who do not know the Lord, and they do not understand the way of righteousness, nor do they walk in his paths. But he knew their works and delivered them into darkness. And one shall be like a thief in the night. That we've heard that one before. For the eye of the adulterer watches up for the darkness, saying, no eye will perceive me. And he puts a covering on his face. In the dark he breaks into houses. In the daytime they seal themselves up, for they do not know the light. For in due time the shadow of death will be the same to them, because they shall know the troubles of the shadow of death. He is swift on the face of the waters. May his portion be cursed on earth. May their plants wither on earth, for they have taken away from the orphans even the smallest portions. Then his sin is recalled to memory, and he vanishes like a mist of dew. But what he has done may be recompense to him, and may every wrongdoer be crushed like rotten wood. For he has not treated the barren woman well, and showed no mercy to the feeble woman. In his anger he overturns the weak. Therefore, when he raises up, no one believes his own life is safe. When he falls sick, let him not hope to recover, but let him perish by disease. For his exaltation means mistreated many, but he was withered as mallows in the heat, or as an ear of corn falling on its own from the stalk. If it is not so, who says I speak falsely and will make my speech worth nothing? And so a lot of wisdom literature there, um, just being there. Um, God knows they are wicked, and so he delivers them to darkness. So these are the people that are without the light of Christ in them. Um, so, okay. On to 25. Then Bildad the Shuhite answered and said, what beginning or fear is his? He who makes all things in the highest heaven. May no one imagine there is a respite for pirates, upon whom will there not be an ambush from him? How shall a mortal be righteous before the Lord? Of course, there's only one person, one human that's righteous, and that's Christ. Or how many may he who is born of a woman purify himself? He orders the moon, then it does not shine, and the stars are not pure in his sight. The last man is putrid, and the son of man a worm. So a lot of that is, again, reminiscent of scriptural things that are there, things that we say in the church and hymns in the church. Um, a lot of things that are familiar within wisdom literature. So, any comments or questions?
Can I ask a question, Father?
Yes.
Okay, so the people, in the past, because it's always in retrospect, I suppose, that we can know that truly someone was a saint in their life. So somehow they, received such that they would be righteous also with Christ, in Christ. I guess that's kind of my question. So if we speak that way, we're called to be saints. So, of course, if you think you're a saint, you're definitely not. But what I'm trying to say is that we can look in retrospect, though, right? And know that someone did. And also in the prayer and the liturgy, you always talk about the end of life and, hoping for things to be righteous for the person. So can we speak of people that have passed as being righteous because we have saints?
Yeah, we can say that. I mean, Christ is the only one who's sinless, right? That's probably the better way to put it. He's the only sinless one. Um, but people are righteous. Not that, not that they were sinless, but they were righteous. They lived their life in a way that was worthy of Christ. Um, and some of them, as we were talking about Moses the Black earlier, did really, really bad stuff, worse than any of us will ever even contemplate doing. But with repentance, you can eradicate sin. I mean, so
Okay, well, thank you. Oh, there was who was the story? I forgot the person who held his hands up because someone was asking him what he could do, and his hands were aflame. Do you remember the story? I
I
have
don't
to
know.
find it. It was a beautiful story. One of the saints, I guess. I just forgot which one. I
Hmm.
hate that I forgot, but
Yeah, at that point, you're probably like, no, you need to be teaching me.
his hands were aflame. It was just such a beautiful story. I have to go find that. I'll put it in the notes if I can find it.
Yeah, there you go. If you find that, let us know.
You have to being trying to live a righteous life. You have to be very intentional,
Mm.
and I guess that's why the Desert Fathers, to go off by yourself is. It sounds like it would be easier, but it's horribly hard
Very hard.
because you set yourself up for. It's like you're at war, but your battalions forgot to show up, and you're the only one there.
The
I mean, how they talk about the demons and the saints, and it's like,
the issue with monasticism, right? So the rise of the Desert Fathers coincided with Christianity not being persecuted. Um, and it was because there were some who felt now that it's easier, I'm not as, like you said, intentional about my Christianity anymore. So I need to go into the desert where I can be a little more intentional. And even today, I mean, we have Mount Athos and places like that, monasteries, right? Some of them are a little more, um, some of them have more visitors than others, right? Like in Mount Athos, having been there obviously there's monks that are there for hospitality and they're interacting with people all the time. But there's other ones that they don't want to see you. They don't want you there, and they don't want to see you. Um, and so yeah, their life is solitude. But for us, I think we would think, oh, that will be easier. If I was if I wasn't so pestered with everybody else, I wouldn't be so judgmental. I wouldn't be so angry. I would be. But no, now you're left with your own thoughts, and that's where the demons come in. And when when you're left alone with your thoughts, that's where, yeah, you're combating a lot more. Because, what's one of the worst thought a monk can have? This is too hard for me. I want to leave. Oh, you know. Um, and so having been to Mount Athos one time, we were there for a week. This was before I was ordained, and there was a time when I was contemplating should I be celibate or not. And having gone there, it made it very, very clear to me monasticism was definitely not part of the plan. These people are way above my abilities, and I also realized celibacy was not a reality either. Um, but yeah,
but isn't one of the worst things though for um, any of us to say that a monastic is, I'm so good,
mhm.
I'm so righteous.
I'm doing well.
I'm so glad I'm not like
That
him.
yeah. Well, so
Yeah.
like I said on Sunday, I mean, if we're fasting during Lent and we think we're doing well, go eat a hamburger. Or Or if we're fasting during Lent and we have no change in anything that we're doing, we're still as angry, we're still, nothing's changing within us. You might be going through the motions of discipline, but you really don't have any self-discipline. You're just going through the motions. You've changed your habits, is all you've done. You're not actually exercising spiritually in the way that Lent is intended to be. And go eat a hamburger.
And God doesn't ask us to be perfect because we can't.
No. Well, he asks us. Christ does say, "Be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect." But that's the bar. That's not.
How you said to open, you would say open a door, just open the window and look out.
Yeah.
He wants us.
Yeah.
He wants us to be
Yeah.
others, but he doesn't. I don't think that he demands from us
No,
Yeah.
no.
because he knows we can't.
It's not an expectation. It's more of, here's the issue. What if he had said, "Well, you can sin a little bit."
A little bit and a little bit more.
Well,
What's a little?
that's a relative term, right? My little might be different than your little.
No, the battle is between two personalities. Between us is the personality of who God wants us to be,
Mhm.
who God made us to be, and who we are.
Right.
So the point is that the first one will win over the other, but
Mhm.
we give a good fight not to.
And that's even St. Paul says that. I mean, St. Paul of all people, I do the things I don't want to do. And he talks about that battle within every human being. I think the issue, and this is what the church teaches, is as long as you're battling, that's what God wants. As long as you haven't given up, as long as you're making an effort, he respects the effort, and that's what we're called to do. So
Even the monks battle. They pray, and then as soon as they stop, that's when the battle starts.
exactly.
There was a saint this week, I think, that he gotten into quite of a argument or disagreement with one of the other, I don't know if it was a monk or priest, I can't remember. I'm not very good with names and stories, but he kept asking the other man, "Please forgive me, please forgive me." He says, "I never will forgive you," when he was really being taken to be a martyr. And he would not forgive the other man. And so he then, and they wanted him to become, I think, uh, Muslim. I can't remember the whole story, but so they said that basically he lost his crown to the one that he didn't forgive
Mhm.
because he didn't forgive.
Right.
And and that's a hard thing. And even, like our society sometimes glories in that unforgiveness. It's like, how can I, that person deserves what they're getting, should be in jail forever. They should, shoot him in the common grounds of the town, and to say, I don't I don't want that to happen. Like a family
Right.
goes to the court and says, "We don't want this person to have the death penalty."
Right.
And it's like you would think, so we say we're, a lot of people say this is a Christian country, which is not really true. Um, it's not true at all. But if we were, there would not be
Right.
a death penalty because the wronged party would be the Christ had the death penalty, and he didn't say that's, maybe in some circumstance, but we are loath to forgive.
Right.
I don't think a Christian country is a Christian notion. I don't think that there can be a Christian country.
I agree with you.
So
I agree with you.
he can hardly be a Christian person.
Yeah. For the whole country.
let alone a whole
I
country.
mean, it's hard for a whole family.
Well,
No, even for one person. Like, look at the monks. They're
Yeah.
just
yeah,
like all these monks, like senpai, all these saints. They had such a self-awareness of how low they were. They were saying like on the worst, they're believing it. They
Mhm.
they were believing it. And the thing is that they were right.
Mhm.
And they were right about. And the reason they managed to become to come in Christ, to become to to come with Christ and in Christ is because because of the grace of God. And we don't like if these people were scared and be like so self-aware about how low they are, what should we do? We have no idea.
Yeah.
We're just blind.
yeah.
And that's the thing. Like we just try and fight to be able to self find self-aware to realize how bad we are. So that the forgiving thing is like God doesn't ask for a lot, just asks to forgive, not to forget. Though he forgets.
He forgets, but we
He
don't.
both forgets and forgive. When we go to confession,
Yeah.
he forgets. It's like it never happened.
Right.
Like the church fathers feel like it's never happened to the eyes of God.
Right.
So he doesn't ask for you to forget, but at least he has to forgive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I mean, I would say multiple things on Christian countries. You know, our problem in this country is we have how many different denominations. So, which Christian we're not unified as Christians. So therefore, it can't be a Christian country. Secondarily, and you mentioned 56% of Christians earlier, was that people who self-identify as Christians? Because you can have somebody who's a Mormon who identifies as a Christian, and they're not really Christian. So, those things are all elements of it. But yes, a society that is seeking harmony, I'll use that word, wouldn't want somebody who committed a heinous crime even to be killed. We would they would seek them to repent.
mm-hmm.
And so if you take away the opportunity for repentance, you're not creating harmony. And so yeah, I mean, but and
God finds ways. Like the first person who entered the heaven was
mhm,
under the death penalty.
mhm, mhm. And yeah, I mean, God overcomes our shortcomings.
Mm-hmm. So that's why Christian country is not needed.
Correct. It's not needed. It's not.
It's not even like it's not like if somebody says a Christian country, like
Yeah.
when I hear somebody saying I'm a Christian, I really doubt it.
Yeah.
Because we try to become Christian. We're not Christians. We're far from Christians. Because in the liturgy, when in the liturgy Saint John is referring to the Christians, he's talking them saints.
Mhm.
Right? He said
Right.
like the holy to the holy.
Right.
He's calling the Christians that are in there holy.
Yeah, we haven't been.
So we're not holy.
We haven't.
We're just trying to become. We're just trying to be there.
Correct. We are the church militant, right? We're still fighting the battle. We are not the church triumphant. But even historically American, I mean, most of the founding fathers were deists. They believed in a God. Many of them believed that Jesus was part of that equation.
Which equation?
The God equation. Whether or not he was actually God or not, they didn't all have the same belief on that. They were more deists than Christians per se. But yeah, I mean, but you're right. It's not. We don't need to be a Christian nation. I mean, it's not. I don't know that should be part of our goal, if you will.
Well, the fathers didn't say it. They said freedom of religion. They didn't say which
Right.
one.
It's the same thing that.
I mean, that implies that there were multiple at that writing.
Correct. Well, it's the same thing Constantine did, right? I mean, the Edict of Milan, it wasn't specifically about Christianity. It was a freedom of religion within the empire, So, again, the model that our founding fathers followed after. But uh, you know, in our world, you know, the only if we're saying we are a Christian country, it's almost like saying that we want a caliphate.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
so you know, and I don't think that we need a caliphate. And by the way, we had an empire for 1,000 years in Byzantium, and we weren't always Christian during that time. So,
Harriet, you read those stories and it's like, holy moly. And then when you say, you would always say it's like we're supposed to be like little Christs.
mhm,
And it's very hard. And I think that's why in all of our services, Kyrie eleison is the most important prayer, I
mhm.
think.
Mhm.
And it's simple, but it's powerful because you're not asking anything but be merciful to me.
Right.
Because I just
I can't do it.
You just asked for grace.
Yeah. So one time when our children were little, they were driving me crazy. And I was like,
One time,
well, no, I'm this
Not the only this
No, no.
time.
this one, no, but I'm like, these kids they were little, and they were making me nuts. And then I kind of stopped, and it was like I was saying, Elison, what a mercy. And it was like, I looked at them, I said, you were so lucky that my soul started praying before my body did something to you because you were driving me. But I think about that because it's not often that you recognize that God has hit you in the head. But that to me is a very powerful prayer. And I think that we forget it or we've never known it. And I've had friends who are different Protestant denominations who when we talk, say, well, we have confession, we go and like you say, your sin, God forgives you, He forgives and forgets. You have to remember so that you don't do it again, because to keep coming back and saying, oh, but just that one time I went back, did it again, and did it again. It's like, no, eventually he's going to say, yeah, I'm not going to forget this one. But, and they say that's an amazing thing to have because you have to intentionally say, I'm going to go tell someone who I trust that, and it used to be like the whole congregation, right? You would go stand up and say, this is what I did.
in the
Allow
early
the
church.
person that I am. But it's a very powerful sacrament to have.
Very much so. You mentioned the kids driving you crazy. There is a reason God gave us His name as a relational name, Father, and we are His children because we are the ones driving Him crazy. We're the ones who He's looking at us, shaking His head the whole time. If he had a head big, but he, we're the ones that are, the disasters. And so, yes, Lord have mercy is because confession is very important and very powerful. And oftentimes when people come, they go, "Oh, I forgot," or I don't know," and it's like part of our problem is we know the sins that we know. We don't know the sins that we don't know, and there's a lot of sins about us that we don't even realize we have.
Exactly.
So you're never gonna. What was the word? We're never gonna get to Ponte Los.
No, that's what we have a fjällen.
Exactly. Exactly. So, and but yes, that beautiful reality of confession is, the book of life. We want to be in the book of life. The name on that is a name that God is unique to us and God has given it to us. When we go to confession, basically at the end of our life, we want Him to open that up and go, got a lot of good things, but you've confessed enough that the bad ones aren't on the pages, right? So
Do you think that, 'cause I think about, like if at because the second coming, it sounds like it's going to be pretty dramatic, right? The stars fall out of the sky, the sun goes away, the moon goes away.
You're not going to miss it.
You're not going to, right? And if someone even at that point says, Lord have mercy, I know who you are, like the thief on the cross. I hope that's enough to say, yes, I believe now. Because if you don't believe then,
Yeah.
as the living or the dead, if you don't believe then
you are in total darkness.
yeah,
You're
that's pretty dramatic.
you're blind.
There was I saw an interview. I don't remember who was he, but he was an atheist, and they were asking him about God and religion and why he doesn't believe. And he said that what's he gonna do if he dies and God exists and all these things. And he gave an answer that's really really interesting. He said, if I die and God indeed exists, and he's if he does exist and he does indeed so merciful, I'll just go to him. I'll bow down and ask forgiveness. Which is, I mean, he may be saved and will be not. You know what I'm saying? Because he depends how clean your heart is.
Let's say Christ is the judge, and he knows us, each and every one of us, better than we know ourselves. And he will know what was in that person's heart to judge appropriately. So you never know.
But he has an action. He the speaker, is saying, if I see that, I need to do something. Because you have to request God to come into your heart. And it sounds like he's saying even after death, if he sees that is God, that he would do something to say, yes, I do see you, I do believe in you.
He'd respond. Yeah.
Can I say something? We're studying Job, and in a way, Job is a perfect example about what's wrong with the world, because basically Job has his eye on Christ all the time, but yet these things still happen. But at the same time, he understands that God's will is something much beyond anything he can comprehend. So the rest of the world, doing everything they do to Job, it's all about this idea. Well, you must have done something. So it's almost like they live in a whole different world than Job does.
Right.
And in reality, isn't that? I wonder all the time what would happen if it was never translated to the word sin, and we had instead the concept we've got to keep our eyes on Christ. It's about our aim. And there's humility in that. It doesn't mean, the bad or good. It's just going to really mess things up if you take your eyes off Christ. And, so in that sense, you could call it bad. But, I wonder how different everybody would be if that word sin, wasn't there. And instead, we had the Greek word of keep the aim properly and keep it where it needs to be. Have you ever thought of that, Father? And any thoughts on that? That's really, I guess, what I want to say.
No, I think that is true. That yes, we need to that should be more of our focus instead of trying not to sin, which I think sometimes we do. It is that in everything we do have Christ being the center and focus of that. So what I say about the Old Testament, if you read the entire Old Testament through the lens of Christ, you understand the Old Testament a lot better. And I think life is a similar part of that. That if you see everything through the lens of Christ, through the eyes, not the eyes of Christ, but the lens, the idea that Christ is still the center of it, even when bad things happen, what we might consider bad, I guess I should say, that good can come from that. So, and yeah.
But that's like Peter. And, he took his
Walking on
eyes
water.
off of Christ and he sunk. And then later Christ tells him, well, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen to you. You're not going to like it, but this is going to happen to you, but keep your eyes on me.
Yeah.
And it'll be okay.
Yeah. So,
and even, don't worry about anything you're going to talk about because you'll have those, just like said, even the bad guys.
Yeah. But yeah, so I agree with you, Jeannie. This is a universal truth that is true today, and it was true previously as well. But the friends are the world, and Job is just saying, "I'm just trying to honor God and understand, a little bit of why I've been through this."
That's why that what's that book? Why do bad things happen to good people?
Yeah.
It's like it is the way it is.
Because that's what happens.
Yeah. No reason.
So